You feel like what?
It feels like weirdly
Intimate?
formal.
Yeah, but it's gonna look way better.
Okay.
I really actually like hate formal. So even with the intro stuff, like, I might just. Well, whatever. Okay, so. Podcasting. This is Suspending Disbelief. I have my friend Trevor Dahl, who is an artist, a painter, a muralist, a designer, a sticker maker. Those are sick, by the way. Like the ones you did, I actually really like them. Yeah. I just want to start this conversation by something that I've been meaning to ask in all my podcasts, but I don't think I have. But what does suspending disbelief, like, if you were to unpack what that means to you? Well, yeah, what?
What is it? What does it mean?
What does it mean
to me?
And also, how have you seen it affect your life? Like, especially with growing up religious and suspending disbelief at some point, and if that makes sense, like if it works in at all with that timeline.
Sure.
If you want to talk about it.
Yeah, suspending disbelief reminds me of something that I wrote the other day of like the like realm of spiritual belief being like a playground, or like the concept that belief is an experiment, and that I can like choose to believe something, and it's not like such a committal thing. Like I just believe in something for fun, and see what happens to me internally, externally, and
It's like science.
yeah, and it's just kind of like creating like a more fun way of living, I think, of like I can go out throughout my life like believing in things, but then like kind of like compartmentalizing that. Like I can get more rational if I need to, or if it's like required of me or something. But I prefer to like stay in like fairyland where like I can believe in all sorts of fun things, Bigfoot and aliens and Jesus and whatever.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminds me just real quick of like the alchemical container that we've talked about in the past, but for the listeners, like the idea of having a glass container that if there's too much heat added to it or too much rigidity that it will shatter, versus like a rubber container or a elastic container that you can bend and morph and apply tons of heat, or squish, or the pressure can really build up, and you can sort of do riskier things alchemically without risking the container. Or if we think of that in context of the psyche, it's like holding and playing with if our psyche is a glass container, holding like a belief that might play out to have a negative effect in your life. If you don't have a more elastic container, that could like shatter you. It could be very uncomfortable. It could very much it could cause neurosis, or all sorts of depression, anxiety, whatever. But so like what you're talking about to me sounds like you're really working with an elastic container for belief.
Yeah, and a thing to add is like not only having a belief that may be negative in the long term, but also like holding paradox and beliefs that aren't like jiving so well together, I guess.
Right.
Or
like you were saying, being rational when you need to be rational, and having somewhat
Sure.
non-rational beliefs at the same time.
yeah, or like just picking and choosing from religions, or ideas that I think are interesting or maybe helpful, or and kind of like, yeah, just cooking up a pot of stew. I'm like, I put some of this. Let's put in some of this. See what happens,
Yeah, do you think so? Kind of segueing into more of your art, do you feel that your art has influenced that stew of belief, or vice versa? Or is it kind of like the belief system that you built has kind of influenced your
That's, I know what you're asking me, and that's like a pretty interesting question that I've actually never thought about, because I think it's both. It's like the chicken and the egg, because going back to the other question of like growing up religious and being like pretty rigid, or like having this like rigidity forced upon me, like this is what you must believe and everything else is incorrect. And I drew a lot as a kid, but it was not so imaginative. I wasn't exactly tapped into my imagination. Like I would draw, I would like replicate like a picture,
realism,
and, like,
or whatever?
Yeah. Try to draw things that I liked or whatever, as accurately as possible. And when it came to like, I felt like lacking in myself, that I would try to not do it, and I'd be like, I can't think of anything. And that's so funny, because I'm like so far from that now. And I think like transitioning out of like a dogmatic religion, into whatever I am now, this like free form thing, like allowed me, like I kind of just learned to be more free psychically, I guess, or something, in my mind. And so I kind of like, in my art, I just draw like whatever comes to me, and then what comes to me seems like it's coming, from outside of me, and then I can kind of load those images with belief also, and like kind of supercharge these things to myself. Like some of the things I draw over and over again like have a lot of meaning for me.
Right.
And it's kind of like the same thing that I'm doing with religious symbols and stuff.
Yeah. So, unless you got more, I want to try to...
No, go for it, yeah.
So what I think I just heard you say is something like the rigidity of like a imposed belief system, like growing up fundamentally religious or whatever. It sounds like, and I'm saying it this way because this is, I think, my experience. When, as you were saying, I was like, oh, I actually experienced a very similar thing where I could not create. But there's like this, let's see if I can figure this out. There's that imposed structure that they put you in a box of belief, and it's like anything outside of this box is essentially the devil. Like you can't go explore this. If you start to doubt, then that's the devil or whatever. And
nip it in the bud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so for me, I was very much so opened to creativity when I started to be like, oh, this box isn't real. And that, like, so I'm trying to draw the parallel because I experienced a very similar thing. When I stopped trying to fit into a religious box, I felt psychically free, and I became very creative.
Yeah.
So I guess like to sum up my question or whatever, or the summary of what I think you said is, it's almost like to be creatively free, you almost have to explore psychically, theologically.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I think creative freedom would look different to other different people, you know.
Yeah.
Like, my approach to art and creativity is like totally not the same as most people I know, at least, that are artists. Like, some people to like maybe some degree, but yeah, I don't know if it's like a requirement. It's just like an interesting thing that is like a part of my life.
Yeah.
And I guess yours as well.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I think maybe an easier way to think of it, I bet there's a correlation between like high in openness and creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I also, it's fun to hear you say that because I've never heard you talk about that. But yeah, with like the piano and everything, I did not start writing until I sort of like didn't know what was true anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm like thinking about the first time I made a painting, or like second time, because when I was like 21 or 20 or something, my mom bought me like a paint set, and I did like a tutorial on YouTube. I painted like a vase. And
that was your first time?
Yeah. You know, I had drawn and stuff and done like art classes in high school and stuff, but never painting. It was always drawing. And so I was, kind of like mixing colors and painting this vase, and I just painted it, and it was like, you know, whatever, that was fun. And then I just put the paints away for like maybe a year, never thought about it. And then one day, I was feeling really creatively blocked at the time with my music, and just kind of like lost about what I was doing with my life and everything. And I did this like mushroom trip, and with my best friend and roommate at the time, and we just painted all night, and it was like this burst of like creative energy, because just sitting there and just free painting, not ever like planning or drawing, and just kind of like you can see it. What I would do is like paint something and then like turn it around, and then like see, what do I see now, and then like start like working it more,
I've done that kind of
and then just keep turning it.
Yeah.
And you can see like this progression of like earlier in the trip, it's like totally abstract, and then it gets more like representational, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Very cool.
yeah, it was such a cool experience, because like the next day I was like, wow, that was so fun. Like, I mean, you just do it again. And then I painted every day for like months, doing the same thing, just kind of like painting without intention, and just like painting over the canvas like over and over again, and just kind of like just fun. I don't know. And I enjoyed it so much and was so consistent about it. I was like, oh, this is what I should do. And then I like went to study it and stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of like this light bulb that that kind of turned on for me with, I guess, thank you to mushrooms maybe, but it was also just like this buildup of creative block and stuff, you know.
Yeah, well, it was fun because I wrote down creative block because you had said something earlier about how you don't struggle at all with that inability to like come up with new ideas when you're drawing and painting, like that you did when you were younger, right? And I was curious, like, for anyone listening that is a creative and struggles with that aspect of like opening up and allowing those images to come through, is there a ritual you do, or like what is it that you do, at least do you suspect, that influences that openness for those new ideas to constantly be coming?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, like sometimes you have an idea and you make it happen. Or sometimes you just see something beautiful that you want to try and paint or whatever, and you just do it, and that's like very straightforward, right? But like sometimes you don't have inspiration, and you just kind of like for me, I'll be like, I know I want to draw, and like I would like to be drawing consistently, but I don't have anything coming to me right now. So one thing I figured out like a while ago, many years ago, was to get like Sharpies, and I would get these huge pieces of paper and just the second I have like an impulse to make a mark, or like you know, you're staring at this thing and like waiting for images to like, or ideas to come to you, I guess. And then the second you have like anything, just like start going for it. And it's like it's kind of a trip, because you go through like all these cycles of like regret, you know, or something. Like you're like drawing it and you're like, no, you know, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
But because you can't erase it, I kind of like force myself to like see it through, and like kind of, if I get bored with where it's going, just like do something else random. And it's kind of like this feeling of like a dog chasing its tail and like always so close to getting it, where you're just kind of like drawing random shit and like not letting yourself think, like try to just act before a thought, right? And then if you do that for like, you know, a couple hours, just moving on from the drawing whenever it feels like you just want to restart, you know, because you have this huge paper, just try to just see what happens. And then eventually you have this huge piece of paper that has all this crazy stuff on it that you would never have thought of. And it's kind of like for me, like it's like a look into my inside world, because I'll be like starting to put meaning onto it, and like why am I drawing these things, who do these creatures represent, because it's a lot of animals and creatures for me usually. And like sometimes it's like, you know, garbage and like things that like just horrible that I would never share, and sometimes it's like beautiful like ideas, or like something that has like this symbolic like richness or something. And then from there I'll get like so much inspiration. I'll like pick my favorites, and I'll be like, okay, now I have like painting, I have ideas for paintings that will last me for like months. And yeah, usually the things that I'm painting, like I doodled them earlier that year, or even like years ago, because that's another thing, is if I like finish painting and I don't have a good idea yet, I'll just go look at my pages and pages of doodles that I have now and just pick one that hasn't been done yet.
So do you doodle more when you feel you don't have inspiration? Is it like
I don't know, sometimes I'll just be in a phase where I do have a lot of inspiration, because sometimes this like exercise is hard, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's the only thing I want to do. So I kind of just go with the flow, you know, and like if it's too hard, if it's like, I don't know, if I'm not enjoying it, then I'll just go paint one of the ideas I already thought of, you know, because I'll go like months of not doing this doodle thing. But I know I can always like go back to that. And then it's also something like you do it one day and it's like it feels really rusty and clunky, and like the channel is clogged. But like you keep doing it like daily, and then after a couple days, you can like get into the flow pretty easily.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to mention, I've been talking a lot about impulses in my life in general, and I really dig the dog chasing the tail, like the idea of staying ahead of the thinking rational mind almost, and staying in those impulses. And that is an awesome exercise, I think, to like just move and get into action before allowing speculation and prediction or
right,
like
or just trying to control it or something. It feels like surfing or something, where like it's you're kind of riding this creative wave, and you have to steer it a little bit, but mostly it's like pushing you.
Yeah, I think of the Chariot card a little bit when I
yeah, I mean, it's a good metaphor for like how to live your life, I guess. Maybe,
yeah, because then it's like, this is what I've been very interested in this concept, because you have all sorts of different types of impulses that are coming from different places. So like some of the body's impulses might not be, or like some of the shadow's impulses might not be best acted on in a moment,
right. And like if you live your life without, if like actively like ignoring the idea of a consequence,
right,
of like, no, I'm not gonna think
you're
about
a psychopath.
that at all. Yeah, it's like, that's probably a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm so curious about, the healing process of deciphering between impulses. So like for me, moving from like alcoholism into where I am now over the course of 4 years, it's like one of the main things that has been healed in me, or is healing, continuing to get better and better, is my ability to decipher between like impulses that are coming from a destructive, or I would say like impulses that close doors versus impulses that open doors. Like I'm quicker and quicker at deciphering, oh, this is a closing door impulse, and I'm going to find a better way to express that energy, than do something that's going to make my life smaller. But I don't know why. Oh, yeah, I think that's just fascinating.
Yeah, I've never thought about it in those like terms, like closed and open doors.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I guess. If like you're a person that's gripped with anxiety or social anxiety or something like this, would be good to exercise. Like it is a muscle, and something that I've like done a lot of work with, and I think the drawing thing helps. Of just like silencing that justice consequence. Silencing that, at least temporarily, it's like, not right now, we're not gonna think about that, we're not gonna think right now, we're just gonna act and like trust our instincts and our impulse.
Well, what I just thought of is that you have an opportunity after justice sweeps through, karma balances back out, you have to deal with the consequences of your action, that you have the opportunity in that moment to reevaluate your original decision or original impulse. And so you can slowly, so it's like only through the course of following your impulses can you actually fine-tune like your gauge of what type of impulse it is. So as in when we were talking about like maybe it's not best just to follow all your impulses, but I think there is an aspect of like following them even if there's going to be some negative consequences. And this is what we probably do a lot as young kids, right? Like through the development of like, I don't know, I would even say like 3 years old till you're 25, you do a lot of
Sure.
following impulses, having negative consequences, and reevaluating
Yeah.
and reestablishing. But yeah.
Yeah, and like with the drawing exercise, after you filled the page, you look back and analyze it and decide what is good and what's bad, and it's not like you did something wrong if it's bad.
Yeah, I bet sometimes the weirder ones tend to draw more attention and find more meaning sometimes, like the ones that you didn't expect more.
Yeah, and also you usually have to like rework them. Like it captures like a concept, and then I'll like usually draw it a few more times.
Yeah.
With a pencil and not a marker, to kind of create a better composition or just explore it further.
Yeah.
So to try to keep the metaphor alive for life. I don't know if I can actually.
I was gonna say you could reiterate, like you slowly make. It's kind of like with dating. It's like you keep dating and like keep failing, or you keep not succeeding in some weird sense, but in reality, like you're slowly becoming more and more aware of yourself and becoming more and more of a whole person.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're the drawing yourself, and every consequence helps you shape and align more and more with your true self or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. You're the drawing, and God keeps fucking up trying to draw you. Or maybe, I don't know.
Oh no, I love that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's cool. Like you are the drawer and the drawing, and you keep throwing yourself at situations and seeing what happens. And I don't know. I think that following your impulses in like a social situation is like, maybe it's just me, but like it's not too hard to know what would be like too far, I guess. You know?
Yeah, you have to be
mindful
of,
you
like,
know, if you're like, oh, this would be me being brave, or this would be me being a total ass.
Yeah, you're a creep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like purely contextual, probably.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting concept too, because that completely has everything to do with your perception of social standards and
like who you're with and what the precedent is. Like, there's certain friends that I would do
wild out a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
like that I would behave in ways that I would never, do in other relationships or whatever. You know, anyone probably feel the same way, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, cool. I wanted to talk about something that I thought was really fucking cool, is that I kind of got to experience what we were just talking about like the initial sketch and then the reiteration and then like it kind of fine tuning. I got to participate with you on my dream image from my active imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Where I had a dream about a two-headed snake that in the dream it bit me, but then in my active imagination with my therapist, I let go of the snake. It waddles.
That's a funny drawing.
It slithers away, and I start following it, and I follow it into a dark room, and I see a pair of eyes, and then as my eyes adjust, there's this troll who is sitting around a pot of stew. And I was trying to explain it to Trevor, and he is helping me like draw, because I was like, I want to draw something that I could like tattoo or something, and so I kind of like got to pass that image on to you, and then we like drew it like 5 or 6 times, and then I didn't even
like
know.
a symbol though, like a logo almost,
right.
Like geometric, and I was kind of just helping you with the shapes and creating like a more balanced symbol and composition.
Yeah, yeah. But then, yeah, you just when you got here today showed me, um, what I would consider like be a like a finished, not finished, but like a piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I think I started it yesterday or a couple days ago, and I was thinking about what we had talked about this weekend about like not being afraid to draw things that are a little darker.
Yeah.
Because usually my art has like a lot of positive energy, and there's certain things that, like images that would be darker, I guess. And so you want to, like, I want to draw these things without fear of consequence, right? So, but anyway, so I was doing that. I was kind of like trying to draw, like, usually it starts with a face for me, like eyes and teeth and stuff, at least lately. I started drawing this face, and then it just kind of like became the goblin with the cauldron and stuff, and I just saw it in my mind. And once I realized that I was drawing like your dream, I was kind of excited.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
Yeah. Well, it feels like this weird psychic.
Yeah, it
like,
does. Yeah.
Connection in a weird way.
For sure.
Like not a synchronicity, but like in a similar weird way. Like, yeah, the image in my brain is being translated to you and then drawn. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super fucking psyched about it, honestly. I
Cool.
feel like honored, yeah.
Sick. Yeah, that'll be a cool one, I think.
Do you feel weird talking about the like origins of a piece? As in, like, is
No.
there a part of the mystery that you like keeping mysterious for your art in general?
No, I like talking about them because I feel like I'm not so good at like communicating the concept that made me do it in the first place. Excuse me. Like I'll draw this thing, and I'll either have meaning beforehand, or I'll create all this meaning after I drew it, and then other people see it and they put their own meaning onto it, which is great. But if someone like starts asking me questions, like I'll probably talk their ear off. And I've often wondered about, like, is it better to not talk about it so people can have their own like freedom of interpretation, or if I talk about it, does it make a piece more meaningful to someone? Because if I draw like a lizard on top of a lizard on top of an eagle.
Have you actually drawn that?
Yeah, or sorry, lizard, eagle on top. Yeah, that's one of my pieces, the big lizard. I don't know if you've seen it.
I probably have.
Like the three characters like represent like things to me, like internal states, or like actually people in my life, or whatever.
Yeah.
And some people might see that, and I don't know. I don't know what people think about when they see my art, but I would be surprised if it's what I think. Just naturally.
Yeah. That lizard reminds me of the darkest, shadowy parts of my psyche. Well, that's so, because like I've thought about this a lot with my art and my music. Like I tend to connect more with art if I have a glimpse at. It's like, I don't want to know what it means, quote unquote, but I want you to point me in a direction that then not all possibilities are possible. So then I kind of, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, I can kind of see something here. And so I guess it, like, I'm sure from person to person, you're going to get 100 different answers. Like, some people probably really like connecting through the artist to the art. Some people probably
Right.
want nothing to do with you.
Right.
Just let me look at the art, shut up. And then there's probably people like me who want the little bit.
Yeah, and that's probably the best way.
It's down the middle.
The middle way, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually is. And I think you could do that with just naming your pieces really good. Like the right name can change totally what you think about something, right? So,
Yeah.
sometimes I do that good and well. Sometimes I don't.
Good and well. How do you portray the name of a painting, like, not in a gallery? As in, like, when someone buys it, the name is gone almost, in a sense, unless it's written on the back.
Yeah, I guess so. I never write them on the back. I don't know.
Because, like, a song always will have a title.
Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, I know that some artists will, like, put a little, like, certificate of authenticity in their paintings.
Yeah, like we were looking at Hayden's stamp.
Yeah, he's got a cool little stamp, and I guess that would be a good place to put the name, and maybe, like, the date, and maybe even the medium. But yeah, typically it's just, like, either on the caption on Instagram or in the little, like, name card that you hang next to it, you know, in a gallery or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
That'd be interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna segue. I don't even know how long we've been going.
Yeah, me either.
I want to hurry in. Make sure we're still good. Nice, 36 minutes. Okay. So, I want to know more about your plans, your future, your ideals, goals. What is it you're doing right now to, like, yeah, what is your next 2 months? What are you trying to do right now?
Cool. I, like, hesitate to share future plans.
Yeah, in case they don't happen or something.
Well,
or change.
Sure. I mean, like, plans change all the time, but the idea that, like, when you talk about your future, that you, like, release dopamine and you, like, reward yourself without actually doing it.
Yeah.
I think I suffered from that a lot when I was younger.
I did too.
So the next 2 months.
You also have to make it real, in a sense that talking about it could also make it feel more real.
Yeah.
And have more
definitely.
pressure.
Yeah. Because you're now accountable. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, the next 2 months, so I just started renting a studio space at the Boxcar.
It's official?
Yeah, I paid for this month. I'll
Nice.
move in next week.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So that's really exciting because I've never paid for an art studio, and yeah, I think it's gonna be sick. Like, it's a really cool space. There's a lot of cool artists there that I'm excited to, like, meet, and sounds like we're all interested in, like, transforming what the Boxcar is, which is this, like, warehouse art space in Salt Lake City, like, near just downtown, I guess. And it's kind of like in this reboot phase, and I think that we're all gonna, like, chip in and collaborate on, like, what it becomes, which is really exciting because it's kind of aligning with exactly what I decided a couple weeks ago, which is to, instead of move to another city, stay in Salt Lake and invest more energy into, like, community building and networking and just being more, like, extroverted, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny asking you these questions because we were together for a whole week and
Yeah.
talked about this stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I want people to hear your thoughts on staying. Like, first of all, what the condition of Salt Lake's art scene is, and like, and we'll get back to what you're doing. But I want a little segue.
Yeah, well, I don't know how qualified I am to talk about Salt Lake's art scene because I've felt like an outsider to it most of the time I've been here.
But that's the scene, dude.
Maybe there's a
I felt like that my whole life too.
Maybe there's a scene out there that I'm not like a privy to, but
I think everyone just feels like they're on the outside, and then there's nothing in the middle.
Maybe that would be like
A
I don't know
trip?
what's worse. Yeah, that's probably worse.
Yeah, that's probably worse.
That's funny. Yeah, I think that well, regardless of if there was or if there wasn't, hasn't been one. It's like obvious that Salt Lake's grown a lot. And everyone feels that. And I've been here and seen it grow over the last few years, like dramatically.
You've been here for like 8 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is nothing compared to you, but that's the longest I've ever stayed in one spot.
Well, you've been here more consistently in the last 8 years and seen that growth more than me probably.
Yeah,
Because I was bouncing around to New York and stuff, but
yeah. So it's grown a lot, and I think that there's a huge demand for an art scene, and I think COVID plays into it too, right? Because all these people moved here kind of during COVID and because of COVID.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have all these people here from the East Coast or from California, and they're like,
Like, what is there to do?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so as I've been thinking about this a lot, I've kind of like, oh yeah, there's like there's a demand for more art and music and cool nightclubs and stuff like that.
Techno clubs.
Yeah. I'm seeing it happen, like in the last couple weeks even. Like I can see there's new venues, there's new galleries.
Oh yeah, we gotta go check out that one next to Pi.
The Pie Hole, yeah,
Pie Hole,
it's
yeah.
called International. And I
Yeah.
keep seeing their stuff on social
Wasn't
media.
there something?
It's like 5 days a week they have free music.
Oh, it's like all the time.
Yeah, but Thursday there's like a minimal techno
We gotta go to that.
for sure. Yeah, I'm stoked. Yeah,
Cool.
that sounds interesting. So they called it a dance ritual, which is right up my alley.
Yeah, me
for
too,
sure.
me too.
Um,
Sounds like we're gonna get weird.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyways, yeah. So I think that. Yeah, it's like I think we're gonna see the art scene like blossom in the next year or two, assuming things keep going in this trajectory. And so, yeah, I think that being here at this time as an artist that's like enjoys being social and networking and hosting events and creating things, it's like a really good time to be here. And,
Dude, that's a blessing to be an artist who likes people and likes.
I know,
connecting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and I feel really lucky to like be that kind of person.
Yeah.
But it's also, I have not been that person.
Yeah, you've created this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Did a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was like way more reserved and shy and introverted and.
Even just when I met you 2 years ago,
Yeah.
you were much more analytical and like,
Mm.
or at least you presented that way.
Yeah, and that's also the role that I was in at the job that we met at.
Yeah.
Doing like more design stuff. But yeah, it's been a journey for sure to like be this comfortable in my own skin, you
Yeah.
know.
Would you have any tips for people who are trying to get more comfortable in their skin and then working and whatnot? Like anything that pops into your head?
Yeah, yeah, a few things that worked for me was exercising, like doing like physically strenuous things is like probably one of the best things to help with anxiety.
I hate to hear it.
Yeah, like I went to the gym before this because I was thinking I would get nervous.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta make sure I go like rage lift,
Expend all that excess energy so
Yeah.
it doesn't bombard you, or what's the word I was looking for? Turn against you.
Infiltrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt great when I got over here. But yeah, that's huge, I think. And it doesn't have to be lifting. It just has to be something that's like hard, where you're like pushing up against your limit, you know. And then something that clicked for me a long time ago was kind of like I had a lot of social anxiety, and especially with dating and stuff, but just in general. I kind of realized that, well, at the time I was really interested in like the symbol of Christ, and I mean, people might have noticed if they knew me back then, I had like crucifixes everywhere and like all this like, you know, Jesus stuff. And I was like,
I love that.
yeah, I was like praying a lot. I was getting really into it, and just the idea of like selflessness, and well, what sealed the deal for me was I was like thinking about Jesus and what it means, especially to me now that I'm like creating my own relationship to that symbol outside of religion and outside of my childhood, with like people telling you what Jesus is, you know. So I'm kind of like, based on what I know, like, what does he mean to me? It, he, whatever, I don't know. Probably better to say Christ.
Sure.
Than Jesus. But anyway, I was in this date. I was sitting in my house, and this like person over that I hardly knew, and I was super anxious. And I realized I was like, oh, I'm being like so selfish right now. Like I'm only thinking about myself and how I feel and how awkward this is, and how I don't want to mess up this interaction, and how I don't want to be rejected or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's totally like a fear mentality because I'm like hyper focused on my own experience. And I was like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
And he was like, Jesus would like put on a smile and like be entertaining, you know, or like provide
Like, want some wine?
yeah, or just like provide like a comfortable vibe, you know, instead of just being like, you could feel the tension, you know, when you have anxiety, and it's like people can feel that for sure, you know. And so I don't know, it just allowed me to like chill the fuck out and relax, and like start asking this person kind of about them, and open them up to like a more comfortable place.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about my experience and was like focused on this person's experience.
Right.
And after the date was over, you know, ultimately it didn't go anywhere, but that was like so valuable to me, of like, I just totally shut off my anxiety in that moment. And so, yeah, I don't know, that has done wonders for me. Now it's like habitual, but
yeah, it's so cool to re-interface with the mythology or the stories of Christ and Jesus in a non-dogmatic or non-religious structure.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, no, like, what would Jesus do? As in, like, if I play through this scenario and I replace the symbol and the myth of Jesus into this situation, like, really, what would he do? And it's like,
right,
he would be like, you're a prostitute? Cool. Like, tell me how your life is. You know, like, I don't know. It would just be very
or just
beneficial.
Like, it's like cracking jokes or something, you know? Just
right.
Like,
just like, I don't care who you are. Like, I'm glad you're here.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, just letting someone feel seen and present and valued, and, you know. So.
And getting out of your own experience and into somebody else's experience.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is
Yeah.
like once I realized that I was being selfish, I was like, it was just a game changer for me. And so yeah, Jesus healed my anxiety. He cured me.
I love it because it's like simultaneously ridiculous and true.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways.
Yeah. I want to go more meta on that conversation because
Okay,
I
sure.
think it's really interesting how uncomfortable it can be to talk about some of these types of things in normal life where,
Yeah.
you know, especially in a religiously charged city,
Place, yeah, for
where
sure.
there's people that you say the word Jesus and they're going to be like, we've got an idiot on our hands.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And so people don't have the time, or maybe it's their baggage brings up a lot of red flags or
Yeah.
brick walls that
Mhm.
they're not even really ready to consider that you could re-interface with a symbol like Christ.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of people have had their own journeys with like social anxiety that don't involve Jesus, right? Like, but
Well, here's an example. Actually, I was going to bring it up, and I didn't think it was relevant, but now it is. Where I had a very similar experience on a subway cart, where I was like, everyone's looking at me, like, what does everyone think about me? Like, I knew everyone was paying attention to me, and then I had this thought where I was like, everyone on this train is like me. They're all thinking about themselves. No one knows I'm here. And in that moment, all of a sudden, I was like looking at everyone individually and seeing like what's their experience, but it was this moment where I no longer felt anxiety on the subways because I stopped thinking that everyone was like, I was so full of myself that I thought for sure everyone was thinking about me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Like, I was a very self-centered person for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit. But that was like one of the first experiences where I was like, oh, my suffering comes from my self-centeredness.
Huh.
Yeah. But there was no thought of Jesus in that experience, but it's the same experience almost, right?
Yeah.
Kinda
Yeah, like whatever can pull you out of yourself, you know, into something bigger, like the room or the world or whatever.
Yeah, and I was thinking at the time a lot about like what a higher power or like something greater than me looked like, and so I was thinking a lot about like the human race.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, I just have like a knack or a interest in, my brain just goes to like symbols.
Yeah, and I mean, having an upbringing, like I'm sure if you grew up pagan, you would, and then had to kind of restart your relationship with symbols and in your inner world and these archetypes and stuff like that, you'd probably lean towards pagan symbolism. Similarly,
probably.
a Christian or someone that brought up Christian is going to lean towards those Christian. It's almost that I think of it as almost like they're like those religious, or like even atheism, religion, whatever science, whatever structure you use as a child or your parents use, it sort of creates like a blueprint or like a frame of a house, like for your psyche though. So it's like it's almost like you can't actually go back and tear it out. Because it was used for the foundation.
Yeah, like coming out of Christianity, like a lot of people do this, and I did this of like getting really interested in Eastern stuff, and like I read a lot about Hinduism and Buddhism, and the imagery is amazing, right? Like, and the stories are really cool, and finding the parallels and stuff, but eventually, I just kind of realized that the biblical stories were more fun for me because I had more context and more understanding. Like I know the stories, you know, like when someone tells me like a Hindu story, I'm like enthralled because, you know, I don't know the stories, but when I read like a Christian story, it's just deeper.
Well, you have the context of like I was just reading some Greek mythology, and it's like Uranus and Gaia had Kronos, and Kronos killed or cut off his father's genitals, and then had Zeus, and
all the gods.
But then tried to swallow them all. But so in context of like, if someone's just telling me about Poseidon, I don't really have the context of him, his father, and his brother Zeus, and like all these different things.
Yeah.
But if you were like raised with that mythology and stuff, one little story about Poseidon would be connected through all of these different myths. Similarly, you talk about Cain and Abel, and I see the timeline up to them and after them, and like there's context and layers and all of that different stuff that you don't have with. For me, I don't. If someone tells me some random story from even Buddha's story, I'm not quite sure where it fits in and in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and just like Western media is like, and the movies that we grew up watching, like everything's just connected to Christianity and like the medieval myths and like the King Arthur stuff and all of that. So, and it just like strikes a deeper level, I guess, like the Western imagery and myths, and like Christian influence stuff. So, but I still use both.
You mean both West and East?
Yeah, definitely. I like Eastern practices more than Western practices, like chanting and meditation, like breathing meditation, or like Zen meditation, like sitting.
Yeah.
The only other thing I can think of in Christianity is like praying, and like I guess they do mantra as well, but I don't know.
It's all the same place, just different symbols.
Yeah, I actually prefer like, because I like chant mantra stuff, but like I always do like the Eastern ones.
Yeah.
And I don't like the Western ones because I know what they mean.
Yeah. Well, that's actually interesting, because one of the fascinating aspects of getting sober using the 12 steps of AA was having to sever my definition, or my presuppositions, or like the word faith, for instance. I had to sever my understanding of that word and rebuild a relationship with it. In a similar way, like I started to say the God grant me the Serenity Prayer, and it meant something very specific when I first started saying it, but then I through the ritual of saying it so much, I distanced myself, and it almost meant nothing. And then I was able to and I just kept saying it, and all of a sudden it started to create I started to create new meaning for it. Every time I said it, it was evolving.
Yeah, that's how I feel about
mantras.
In general.
And so it probably just takes more work to get to that empty spot, because you know the words, and you have to forget them.
That's probably correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same thing with faith.
Well, I don't know if in my Mormon upbringing, the word faith meant something totally different than what I use the word faith for now.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. And the one thing I always heard was like, oh, we have faith that the sun will rise tomorrow.
Yeah, I heard that one
I was
too.
just like, yeah, of course it will. It has all the time. Like, that's not really hard to believe. It's like, statistically, like,
very probable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I didn't totally get it, and then
you're just like this little brainy boy, like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. That's funny. Faith is like a little seed. If planted, it will grow. It also reminded me of brainwash, but
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about like holding on to your faith, and like clinging to it.
Yeah, I thought of like questioning your faith as kind of like this satanic or like there's a quote that's like doubt. I can't remember. I tried to forget them all, so I have, but
I don't know either.
yeah, there's something about like don't doubt your faith over some other thing, and I can't remember what it is. So I'm sorry.
Well, for me, it's kind of like with belief. Like, faith is a choice, and when someone says like cling to your faith, like that's not the best verb to me. But I actually have been at parts in my life where I was so on the brink of like depression and nihilism and just like darkness that like I did have to cling to my faith, which was basically just like optimism, you know, and just like this means something. Like I'm here for a reason, and like I don't know what that is, but I mean I just cling to that idea so I can like survive this like fucked up time of my life.
Yeah, well, and I think of faith now a lot as like a parallel to bravery or courage, which is not the absence of fear, but showing up in fear.
Yeah.
So like faith is showing up with doubt.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, like you always have doubt, and to like ignore that would be
Repression.
Total repression. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like yeah, I don't know. Like without like just trusting that everything will work out and that things will be okay, and that you can get as crazy as you want with this, that God is, you know, predestined our lives and fate is this important thing and everything happens for a reason, and it's like you could go as far as that.
We've had discussions about fate and destiny.
Yeah, and it could just be like just a subtle belief that the universe trends good, 51% or something. You know?
Yeah.
Like I have no proof for that, but like my life is much better if I choose to believe that, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's actually an interesting idea. It's like 51 to 49.
yeah, I mean it's probably even closer than that, you know?
Yeah.
50.1.
Yeah.
Is, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, just the fact that it's a choice and that you got to put your faith pants on every day when you wake up.
Yeah.
Or else you're going
to
spiral.
I used to look down on people so much who thought like that. And I used to look down.
Yeah, me too. It feels like small-mindedness or like ignorance or naivety.
Naivety, yeah. So like, and now I live my entire life on the basis that my path is being laid out in front of me by some greater purpose.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's true or not doesn't matter. Yeah.
Because my life has been opening up to me. The doors continue to open up the more I think that way.
Yeah, and that's kind of like using the scientific method with belief, and if it works, it works. Just keep doing it, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. You have to distance yourself from what you are believing in necessarily. Well, this sounds terrible. This sounds like a cult. Maybe I'll just go ahead and stop right there.
Okay.
I actually would love to explore that idea, but it could be dangerous in some cases, obviously. But at the same time, yeah, belief is an interesting, placebo is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But I think a real scientist will understand, I'm not one, but the depth of that word, what placebo actually means. It's not just it's like a weird phenomena that we're talking about, which is like when I believe this thing, then it actually happens. Kind of like there's this weird interaction with the unfolding of reality that we have with our psyche,
Right.
that the placebo is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that it actually has like measurable results, and that's kind of like the divine seed of creation in every moment, in every mind, you know.
Which saves, or which is what gives us free will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have, we were talking about this, like, if we exist within a fourth dimensional object where time and space exist within that, then outside of that, time, like the future and past exist all, and the present exist all at once or in one pinpoint or whatever. And so isn't our future predestined? Isn't that all already written in the clouds or in the stones or whatever they say? But then we were talking about that creative impulse. Like, I've actually started to see it like this, where we actually are channeling something from outside of the fourth dimension. As in, there's only one way to change what's predestined, and that's through divine creativity that is found outside of this realm. Like, all of life is it being channeled into this dimension from the outer dimension or something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I get behind that, for sure. Yeah.
I don't even know if I made any sense, just barely. But
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not smart enough for dimension talk.
I probably shouldn't pretend like I am either.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to, or unless you're on a?
No, I'm at a loss of words. I don't know where I'm trying to go.
Take you back to what you're doing, because we were talking about your studio, and then I interrupted you about
anxiety.
So going back to, you're renting out a studio. You're talking about creating maybe a space to help cultivate more art culture.
Yeah. So, my hope is that this space can be a place where we can have events and kind of bring people together, and in the spirit of art and music and small businesses even, and just like people doing their thing, and just trying to meet all the people out here that are doing the thing and create, more of a family, creative community. And so that's been on my mind a lot with this whole studio thing, because it's an investment, like paying 2 rents now, which is kind of crazy, but I think it will be worth it, and it also, I think, will be good for me, because the other thing I have to do right now is be more extroverted and community minded, but also be like
tucked away,
solitary and like working, because I have like so many paintings in my mind that like need to be expressed, and the only way that it's gonna happen is if I'm kind of like surrender my will to it, like kind of that's hard, it's hard work, and you have to like sacrifice for it. So just being really focused and driven, and I think commuting to like a studio and having like more intention with going there, and like cultivating a space that's like supportive and hopefully not as distracting, will be really helpful. Yeah. And so, I mean, basically I'm just trying to just make a lot of art and find new ways to share it and connect with other artists, and kind of just contribute to the blossoming of, I guess, the art scene here. And on a more macro level, I feel like you're going to ask me this question anyway, like a macro view of my art. but it's kind of like contributing to the blossoming of whatever is happening with like human consciousness right now, which I think is like on the precipice of like a new state or like a new evolution or something. Like people are changing, culture's changing, and yeah, I kind of just see myself as like a node in that plant that's growing into being, and yeah.
Yeah, do you think of yourself as, or your art macro, like pulling people along? Like, is the utility of the art to continue to bring people up and like with the movement, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Or is it more of a documentation of it?
Yeah, I would say if at the bare minimum, it's just a documentation. Even that would be fulfilling.
Sure.
Just to know that I'm taking the innermost things from my soul and putting them outside and just saying this exists.
Right.
And this should exist externally because I don't know. It's kind of what maybe is what's happening is more freedom of creativity is happening on a macro scale, or like just more people hopefully doing, you know, what their soul desires, which only they can do, right? And so the more people that do that, the like richer this like ecosystem is,
Right.
and more soulful and more passionate and more inspired and inspiring, and just, you know, that's the kind of world I want to live in. So, but yeah, I mean, if it pulls people along and people are inspired by the art that I make, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be extremely fulfilling to me. But that's not the main intention. It's just like a nice validation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. I hadn't necessarily had you articulate that with me, and I think we share a very similar desire or approach or macro outlook, because like as you're saying that, it's like I've just been thinking a lot about Greek like mythology just because I've been reading these books, but it's like you're creating your own personal stories, and that's the only way we've ever known any history. Or it's like literally just saying like, I'm here, this is my experience, these are the internal beings and the internal images, and I'm going to bring them out so that we can continue to like understand ourselves as a human race.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like the seeking to understand, because that's what I do with my art for sure. Like the exploration. You run into things that you wouldn't expect and that you might not want to have found.
Yeah.
And that brings more understanding, and that brings like kind of like integration of the shadow, which is totally what's going on with society and humanity.
Right.
Is like
integration of the feminine that we've been
repressed for so long.
Yeah.
And like atonement of all the fucked up evils that happened and that continue to happen, and everyone trying to grapple with the idea that maybe probably the planet is dying because of us.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people like are guilty for being human and being alive and stuff, and that's hard to wrestle with. And
yeah.
it's just a heavy time, man. And I don't know how to change it, but I think that not running from that is the best thing, like trying to integrate it. And I don't even know if I know what that means, but yeah.
Yeah, no.
I mean, what do you think about that? Integrating the shadow on a humanity scale.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying it, it makes a lot of sense to me that that is needed. And I think, as in, like, you see polarization everywhere, which is kind of the opposite of integration. But I think what happens is you have the earth opens up, or like the politics open up, and there's this crack that's opened up where the shadow then emerges out of it, and that is probably a natural process that on a grand scale of humans, like, this is just popping into my head, I have no idea, but like I could see artists as sort of the function of the whole. Their utility or their task is that integration for everyone else, if that makes sense.
Okay. To show someone the demon that was in my dream and hopefully frighten them, you know?
Yeah.
Is perhaps like the psyche trying to integrate into itself, the big psyche, the collective psyche.
Yeah. That's how I see it. I feel that when I feel the heavy suffering and pain of like something terrible, something tragic that happens, and I feel that heaviness from all around me, and I write a song that doesn't feel like my pain and suffering, but like a larger amount of people's pain and suffering, and then I share that, it's like, I think of that as being, it's like, hey, let's not look away from this pain and suffering, let's connect from it.
Yeah. That's a good way to use that, to trauma bond with the rest of the humans. We're all going through the same shit.
We all were birthed and have been screaming ever since.
Yeah.
We just learned how to shove that fear down and start articulating weird words to pretend like we're not terrified.
Yeah.
Literally, it just goes from screaming to like weird sentences that are essentially saying like, I'm scared and I'm full of fear and give me this, give me that. It's kind of interesting. We're just coping.
Yeah, honestly, like, hungry, my toy, iPad, whatever to distract from
life.
How much it sucks to be a baby, probably.
Yeah. It probably fucking... Well, just think about being a part of either everything or nothing, and then all of a sudden being ripped from that into your own oneness, like by yourself. Right. It's terrifying.
Well, it's probably also beautiful, right? Like,
it's the duality of our existence, which is that it's both terrifying and also the most glorious, most beautiful, awesome thing ever.
Yeah.
And you can't really get away with experiencing one without the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, me saying that about my piano, I also want to make beautiful love music that, like, everyone can come together in a different light.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, me too. And
can't tell if you have something.
I don't either. I'm thinking about how my mom sees. She's always like saying how my art is like dark, and
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like your art is
mostly pretty positive and like goofy and fun.
Yeah.
But definitely like dark sometimes.
Sure.
Especially, dude, when I was in college, I would do these self-portraits that were like grim, you know, and it was like weird.
I want to see those.
Yeah, I'll show you. They're at my house. It's cool because you can lay like there's probably like 5 of them or something, and they all have like a different like emotional quality to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Yeah, but some of them are like, I look like a sick street person. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say like a hopeless drug addict.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure mine would have been the same.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. I want to, before we burn out, I want to like plug yourself. Where can people find you?
Oh, we're ending?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a good time.
Okay. Sure.
And we can do another one soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I put all my art on Instagram, so it's at Trevor Dahl. So it's TREVORDAHHHL.
That's your Instagram?
Yeah.
HHH?
Yeah, Trevor Dahl. And then I have a website, goodhappystuff.com, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Any events or you got some stickers that are gonna be popping up hopefully.
Yeah.
You don't know for sure yet?
Yeah, they're gonna be in those sticker machines around town. But I don't know when or where.
Wow.
So just follow the Instagram, I guess. Cool stickers, and yeah, a lot of new paintings coming soon, and hopefully a lot of art shows and fun events coming soon. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna be one of the people to be following on Instagram if you're in Salt Lake and you want to like know what's happening on Friday nights.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I hope so. Yeah.
I could see that. Where it's like, yeah,
That'd be
go
cool.
check out Trevor's page to see what's happening, where all the cool kids are at. Hell yeah. Unless you have maybe one thing that you've been wanting to share that I haven't asked you about or anything like that.
Well, I thought we would talk more about cognitive function, which I was excited to, but we don't have to.
We can a little bit if you want to. I want to hurry and check what time we're at.
Sure, yeah.
And that we're still rolling. We're at 1:22. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about. Hold on.
What time is it?
5:51.
Oh.
So maybe not, huh? We could do another one and talk about cognitive function.
Okay, yeah, but let's call it, because I got to go to the figure drawing and
Yeah.
see if they need help setting up.
Okay. Yeah, there was only one time during the whole conversation where I was gonna bring up your personality type, but I can't remember what it was.
That's okay.
Yeah.
For another time.
Yeah, I'm interested in why you want to talk about it. Is it because? Is it because it's fun to have a framework for understanding you as an artist, kind of?
Yeah, I guess so. Or just me as a person.
Yeah.
Because I just think everyone should be into it, you
I
know. Like,
it's so helpful, dude.
yeah, it's really changed a lot of how I understand myself and understand other people and can relate to people, and so
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what we talked about this whole time is obvious introverted intuition stuff, which anyone listening that really resonates with the kind of conversations we're having and isn't bored by now is probably an intuitive type, whether that be introverted or extroverted. You're an INFJ, and I know we got to go soon, but because we've talked about it now, people are probably curious, but like INFJ is, the cognitive functions are introverted intuition as a dominant, the secondary is extroverted feeling, the third is introverted thinking, and the fourth function is extroverted sensing. I remembered when I wanted to bring it up, when you were talking about finding or like what was really good for your anxiety was getting into your body and physically pushing yourself.
Sensing and also extroverted feeling.
Yeah.
Which is like the whole selflessness.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Moving into that second function and the fourth function. I often give the advice to just focus on the second one because sometimes that fourth one can be very exhausting, which I've been very envious of both, or all of the introverted intuitive drivers that I know, as in their dominant function is introverted intuition, is that you guys seem to receive a lot of energy or spiritual connection through extroverted sensing, which is like getting into your body and pushing yourself. And when I get into my introverted sensing of like reviewing my past and like my past sensory data, going inward and playing a memory over and over and over again to like try to perceive new information from that experience, I tend to get incredibly exhausted, which is my fourth function. So I've been like, I think it's really cool that you can find spiritual and psychological like health and healing through that fourth function of extroverted sensing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
it's awesome, and and I love it. And when I discovered those things about myself, I didn't know about cognitive function, and it's cool to connect that now.
Yeah.
And kind of reaffirms the framework, and it's kind of like maybe just to say that the things that work for me different things are gonna work for other people, and if you know your type and you understand like the car model and the drivers and the passenger and the back seat and all that stuff, it can help you lean into your strengths and know your weaknesses and just kind of like make yourself better, more efficient, more functioning, high functioning individual, I guess.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's like I mean, Personality Hacker calls it genius style assessment. So it's like we're gonna figure out exactly what your genius is, the thing that you should be bringing to community. Like we were kind of talking about, it's like if everyone showed up bringing what they're supposed to be bringing, and personality type actually, it's a blueprint of what you need to be moving into. And like you're saying, it actually happens naturally over time, but you can speed it up.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're in a loop and like you're stuck and you're not maturing and you're not quite sure why. Learning your type is so beneficial. And I think also to be accepted and understood by yourself. That was huge for me when I learned my type. I was like, oh, all of these things that I've always thought were negative characteristics are actually positives that I have been ashamed of. And then when I started to use them as positive characteristics, my whole life changed.
Yeah, so I guess to finish it up, if anyone doesn't know about that, Personality Hackers is good. And also, you probably know if you're here, but Jared's TikTok page is pretty good for that too. So.
Yeah, thanks, man. You're like, all of a sudden this is you're flipping the page on me here. What is I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got me into type, so
yeah,
there's full circle.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, if anyone isn't interested, I can type you in person. That's the best way to do it, or not in person, but like over Zoom, through like an hour and a half conversation, where I slowly pinpoint what cognitive functions you're using. And then work with you to figure it out. I'm not going to be able to tell you what your best fit type is. You're going to have to tell me, and I'm going to help you find what your best fit type is. I think that can be a lot of people's issues, especially someone like me who is like, well, we're all so different. We all have our own unique twists and turns, and a framework is so overly simplified. Like, how could it possibly be helpful? But as I've applied it more and more and more, it's become, which is interesting. The way I apply it more and more is by backing off more and more. So it's like I'm really using it just as a framework, and not as like, it's not that I would only date these types of people.
Yeah,
it's like I'm just like, oh, I know how to interface with that type of person and that type of person and that type of person, and so I could really date anyone. Which is really cool. Anyway, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah.
It's so fun to be friends, like best friends for the last year and known each other for 2 years and still not have had some of the conversations that we just had. I think that's pretty
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's fun.
Have a lovely evening, everybody, or morning or afternoon.